So we left off with this piece. It's done by Native Americans in the southwest part of the country, southwestern New Mexico, the Mimbres. So they were famous for these black on white painted bowls. This bowl is from around 1250. There's an animated graphic here of two black cranes on a white background or white ground. So there's a lot of contrast between the black and white and between the border design around the edge of the bowl and the birds in the interior. So there's a lot of kind of dynamic tension here. There's this diagonal line, which also is dynamic. A lot of lines that curve around the bowl. So there's a lot of different compositions that appear in Mimbres pottery. A lot of complex geometric patterns, abstract humans, animals, and then also composite creatures, composite mythological beings. We've seen before in American art, the South Americas and Mesoamerica. Very imaginative artists that don't really repeat themselves, which makes it very interesting to look at these different designs. There's a lot of linear rhythm, but still controlled within a clearly defined border of the actual pottery itself. They did not use a potter's wheel for this for actually anything in the Americas. So they used coils of clay. These are coil pots, and they do come in countless sophisticated shapes, varied sizes, a lot of technical excellence actually in the building of these. It's thought that pottery making in the Southwest was definitely, they think women's work. So they do think that the Mimbres potters were probably women. Okay, moving on to the next culture, we have the the ancestral Puebloans. Probably one of the greatest cultures of the American Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans. They were northern neighbors of the Mimbres and Anasazi. So they occupied present-day states of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, kind of where they meet. They emerged as an identifiable culture around 200 CE, but they didn't really reach their peak until about 1000. They have a lot of pueblos or urban settlements that they've left behind throughout the Southwest. And they had a lot of masterful building skills that we will take a look at here. This is Pueblo Bonito in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. It's done by the ancestral Puebloan people, mid-9th to mid-11th century CE. So Chaco Canyon in northwestern New Mexico was a hub of extensive, planned network, basically, of unpaved roads that connected the residents of the canyon to other Native American communities in the Southwest and farther south, actually, into Mexico. And in the 9th century, they began to construct great houses in Chaco Canyon, huge complexes with living quarters, storerooms, and also ceremonial chambers, comparable to a modern apartment house complex in function, but not necessarily in form. They built these differently than modern apartment houses, obviously. So Pueblo Bonito is one of the largest 9 great houses in Chaco Canyon. It means beautiful town. Constructed from local sandstone between the 9th and 11th century CEs. And it incorporated 600 to 800 rooms, which are kind of arranged in the semicircular, D pattern. You can see it here in the picture that it's in the shape of a D. So the plan is D-shaped. It is aligned to the cardinal points of the compass. Its curved section is closest to the cliffed wall of the canyon, and it did in areas reach 5 stories in height, which is quite high. Most of the rooms are rectilinear, but there are more than 30 circular rooms, or kivas. So the circular rooms are called kivas, up to 60 feet in diameter, which is quite large, and they would enter these kivas using a ladder through a hole in the flat roof of these rooms. The kivas were basically spiritual centers for native Southwest life. So, male council houses where the elders stored, ritual regalia, held private rituals, and also prepared for public ceremonies in these kiva round rooms that were quite large, some of them as large as 60 feet in diameter. So that's a pretty impressive dwelling there that the ancestral Puebloans built. So we'll take a look at another piece in Mesa Verde National Park in Colorado. This is a cliff palace from 1150 to 1300 BCE, also built by the ancestral Puebloan culture. 12th century, during this time, a drought occurred, and the ancestral Puebloans abandoned their open canyon floor dwellings to move further north to the steep-sided canyons and wetter environments of the Mesa Verde in southern Colorado. So they had to move because of a drought. This is the Cliff Palace. It's basically built into the ledge of above a valley floor. It has 200 rectangular rooms, mostly communal dwellings, made of stone and timber, and then once it was plastered with adobe on the outside of the brick. So it was kind of a smoother adobe plaster surface that has eroded away, and now you can just see the brick now. But so there are about 25 kivas, round rooms, in this particular dwelling. You can see some of them in the photo here. And they did position this by the cliff on purpose, obviously. It took advantage of the sun and the heat during the winter, but the ledge also shaded it during the hot summer months. So the ancestral Puebloans did not disappear, but they gradually kind of evolved into the various Pueblo people who still live in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and Utah. They speak their own native languages. They have a lot of, cultural significance, rooted rituals, and their pottery is also quite impressive. But that is basically the North American chapter in a nutshell. We did not cover the Plains Indians, so we will do a separate reading on that I will incorporate into Brightspace. So look out for that in the weekly module. Here's some discussion questions that you can take a look at. Anyway, we'll talk to you later.